I never would have thought that picking a vacation spot would be the very act that blew up my life, that ended everything I thought I knew about my marriage. My world, once a solid, predictable sphere, imploded the moment I turned a page in a glossy travel brochure. It's a bizarre, almost cinematic detail, but the truth often is. Every morning, for the past 5 years, had been a symphony of comfortable rituals. Her laugh, bright and unforced, would echo from the bathroom as she got ready. The rich, earthy aroma of our freshly brewed coffee would fill the kitchen. And then there was the way she'd hum a cheerful, off-key tune while she picked out her clothes. A little dance she did that always made me smile. I believed we were untouchable, that our bond was a fortress built on love, trust, and shared dreams. Now I know that was the most elaborate, comforting lie I ever told myself. Ashley, the name still catches in my throat, a phantom limb ache. We met 5 years ago at a charity gala in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was there out of obligation, a financial analyst, then 33, steady, perhaps a little too predictable, more comfortable with spreadsheets than small talk. She, a wellness coach, was a whirlwind of vibrant energy, sharp wit, and a genuine kindness that instantly drew me in. She had this infectious enthusiasm for life, pushing me, gently, to try new things, gourmet vegan recipes that actually tasted good, challenging weekend hikes in the Blue Ridge Mountains, spontaneous road trips to quirky small towns. With Ashley, life felt less like a carefully balanced equation and more like a thrilling adventure. She was my confidant, my best friend, the magnetic north of my personal compass. Our daily routine was a comforting, unyielding rhythm. Early morning runs together, shared breakfasts where we dissect the day ahead, busy work days, and evenings spent cooking together, often with her experimenting and me acting as her loyal, if slightly clumsy, sous chef. We discuss our big dreams, our small victories, or just curl up on the couch watching obscure documentaries, her head resting on my shoulder. She wasn't just my wife. She was my anchor. She was my home. We even started talking about the distant future, maybe a little cottage by the lake, or an RV to travel the country when we retired. The illusion was perfectly constructed, and I was living inside it, blissfully unaware. Looking back, the first cracks in that perfect facade were almost imperceptible, like hairline fractures in a seemingly solid foundation. Little things. She started being a bit more distracted during dinner, her eyes drifting, her phone often vibrating silently on the table, face down, pulling her attention away. Her answers to my questions about her day, especially about her wellness coaching clients, became vaguer, less enthusiastic. "Just a busy day, Matt," she'd say. Or same old, same old. I didn't press. I trusted her. I rationalized it away. She's just busy. Her business is really taking off. That's all. She's stressed. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. Then came the accumulating odd details, each one a tiny, sharp splinter under the skin of my complacency. A new, expensive perfume. Not her usual light floral scent, but something richer, more exotic, clinging to her clothes even after they'd been washed. It was the kind of scent that announced itself before she entered a room, and it wasn't her. I remembered asking about it, and she just shrugged. "Oh, I picked it up on impulse, wanted a change." Late-night texts that would make her phone buzz, causing her to snatch it up quickly, her eyes darting to me before she'd mumble something about work messages from a client needing a session plan. The new strappy floral bikini. I saw it tucked away, almost hidden, in her laundry basket one evening. It was vibrant, daring, and completely unlike anything she owned or had ever expressed interest in. When I asked about it, she quickly, almost too quickly, said it was a birthday gift for her sister from a boutique she'd visited on a weekend trip to Austin a few months back. The thought itself felt like a betrayal of our trust. I even noticed she was less keen on our usual movie nights, often citing exhaustion, preferring to scroll on her phone in bed. Her social media, once filled with pictures of us, began featuring more solo shots or ambiguous captions about finding balance and personal journeys. I kept telling myself, am I overthinking this? Am I just being paranoid? She's a fitness entrepreneur, a wellness coach. Maybe this is just part of her industry. The internal conflict gnawed at me, a tiny, persistent worm in my gut. Then she announced she was flying to Dallas for a professional development weekend, a major conference for wellness coaches and fitness entrepreneurs. She even posted a few vague Instagram stories from what looked like a hotel lobby, hinting at busy days of keynote presentations and networking. I kissed her goodbye at the airport, holding her close, telling her to have a good trip. I believed her, until I saw something I couldn't unsee. I wasn't looking for it, not consciously anyway. My mind was on summer plans, on booking a surprise getaway for Ashley and me, a little reward after her taxing professional development conference. But there it was, undeniable, stark, and devastating. A photo of her, my wife, Ashley, smiling radiantly, wrapped in an intimacy I thought belonged only to us, with a man I'd never seen before. The weekend had started out like any other. Ashley had departed for Dallas early Friday morning, leaving a faint scent of her newly adopted exotic perfume lingering in the bedroom. I'd kissed her goodbye, wished her well, and then settled into my own quiet rhythm. Fridays after she left were usually dedicated to catching up on household chores, laundry, groceries, maybe tackling that leaky faucet in the guest bathroom I'd been putting off. Saturday mornings were through a long run, followed by a leisurely breakfast and sorting through mail, bills, and on this particular Saturday, a stack of glossy travel catalogs I picked up from a local agency near my office in Charlotte. I was thinking about booking a summer getaway, something special, maybe a surprise trip to the Caribbean or Mexico after Ashley's big conference. She'd been working hard, and I figured she deserved a real break. My phone buzzed occasionally with her vague Instagram stories. A shot of what looked like a hotel lobby, a blurry photo of a conference badge on a table. All perfectly innocent. All perfectly normal. I remember the precise moment. I was sitting at the kitchen island, the morning light spilling across the polished granite, a half-empty mug of coffee beside me. I'd flipped past ads for Alaskan cruises and European river tours, and then, as I turned a page advertising a luxurious, all-inclusive resort in Cancun, Mexico, my eyes froze. It was like hitting a wall at 70 miles an hour. The world seemed to tilt, and the air was sucked from my lungs. There she was, Ashley, lounging by a turquoise infinity pool, the kind of impossibly blue water you only see in high-end brochures. She was in that strappy floral bikini, the one I bought her from a boutique in Austin, the one she'd instantly dismissed as a birthday gift for her sister. A flimsy excuse I'd believed without question. Her head was tilted towards the shoulder of a man I'd never seen before, a man whose arm was casually draped around her waist, pulling her just a fraction of an inch closer. They were both smiling, a genuine, relaxed happiness radiating from the photo. And worse, they looked comfortable, terribly, sickeningly comfortable. The kind of comfort that only comes from shared moments, inside jokes, and deep, long-standing intimacy. My first thought, a desperate, panicked scramble for logic, was that it had to be a look-alike. Maybe someone who simply looked like Ashley. The lighting was bright, the angle a bit odd. Yes, that had to be it. But the more I stared, the less I could deny it. It was her. The distinct curve of her smile, the way her hair fell over her shoulder, the familiar dimple in her left cheek when she laughed. And then the undeniable details started to scream at me. The small, intricate denial was a thick, suffocating blanket. But beneath it, a cold, raw anger began to simmer. My hands started to shake, the brochure rattling loudly in the quiet kitchen. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. This was a nightmare. The woman I loved, the woman who shared my bed, my life, my future, was captured in this idyllic, sun-drenched scene, betraying everything we had built. The image burned into my retina, searing itself onto my consciousness. A profound nausea churned in my stomach. The sheer audacity of it. The calculated deception. My mind reeled, desperately trying to reconcile the Ashley in the photo with the Ashley who had kissed me goodbye just yesterday. The gap was too wide, too terrifying to bridge. In a strange, almost detached state, my analytical mind, trained over years to seek out anomalies and confirm data, took over. I needed to know. I needed confirmation, even if it shattered me completely. With a chilling calm that belied the storm raging inside me, I found the resort's contact information in the brochure. I dialed their number, my finger trembling slightly on the keypad, when a cheerful, oblivious representative answered. I feigned interest in booking a large corporate retreat, steering the conversation subtly towards the promotional materials. "That beautiful photo on page 12, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's so vibrant. When was that photo shoot taken?" A few clicks, a moment of holding my breath, and then her perfectly polite, perfectly devastating reply. "Oh yes, that one. That was a professional shoot we did just 2 weeks ago, sir. It was part of a campaign we launched for the late spring season." 2 weeks ago. The same weekend, Ashley had told me she was attending a keynote presentation in Dallas. The same weekend, she'd supposedly posted those vague, innocent-looking Instagram stories from a hotel lobby. The pieces clicked into place with a horrifying, sickening finality. The bikini, the necklace, the tattoo, the bracelet, the lies, all of it. The helpful rep continued to chirp about booking options, but her voice was a distant hum against the roar in my ears. I hung up, the receiver dropping with a clatter onto the counter. The numbness spread, a chilling anesthetic against the searing pain of betrayal. My hands were still shaking, but the movements were deliberate. I pressed print, the printer whirred to life, spitting out a pristine copy of my shattered world. I grabbed a red Sharpie and with a grim satisfaction, circled her smiling face and the arm draped around her. I saved the evidence. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it, but I knew I couldn't stop now. The truth, no matter how ugly, demanded to be uncovered. She answered my call, her voice an unsettlingly calm melody. "Hey, stranger, miss me already?" she chirped. A faint background hum of music and distant chatter. Every word, every carefully chosen inflection was a lie. A sophisticated, chillingly casual lie that echoed the beautiful deception of the photograph I clutched in my shaking hand. After the initial shock of the travel brochure discovery, a strange duality settled over me. On the surface, I moved through the motions of my Saturday in Charlotte with an eerie composure. I went for my planned run, the rhythm of my feet on the pavement a monotonous counterpoint to the chaotic symphony of betrayal raging in my head. I made myself a sandwich for lunch, ate it mechanically, tasting nothing. I even managed to nod politely at a neighbor I passed while getting the mail. Outwardly, I was Matt, the steady, predictable financial analyst, enjoying a quiet weekend while his wife was away on a business trip. Internally, my world was unraveling at a terrifying speed. Questions screamed through my mind. How could she? Who is this man? How long has this been going on? Memories of our shared life, once cherished, now flashed before my eyes, each one tainted, twisted into a painful mockery. Every I love you, every intimate moment, every shared dream felt like a cruel joke. The hardest part was knowing I had to call her. I had to listen to her lie, to play along, to gather more pieces of this monstrous puzzle while pretending everything was fine. The effort it took to maintain that facade, to push down the volcanic eruption of rage and grief, was almost unbearable. My hands were clenched under the kitchen table, my knuckles white. I picked up the phone, forcing a casual tone into my voice. "Hey, Ashley, just checking in. How's the conference going in Dallas?" I asked, trying to sound like the loving, slightly lonely husband. Her reply was immediate, too smooth. "Oh, Matt, it's been intense. So much networking, so many incredible speakers. My brain is buzzing." She launched into a vague description of a keynote speaker on holistic wellness in the digital age and complained, just a little, about the air conditioning in the massive conference hall. She sounded tired but satisfied. There was no hesitation, no stutter. It was a performance, perfectly executed. I pressed subtly, my voice still even. "That's great, honey. Any chance you've had a moment to explore Dallas? I hear the arts district is amazing." She laughed a little too brightly. "Barely, it's all been hotel and conference rooms. Though I did grab a quick coffee outside this morning. Nice skyline." My heart hammered against my ribs. Nice skyline. It was generic, bland. No specific landmark, no genuine experience. The hotel lobby, shot on Instagram, now looked even more suspicious. It could have been any upscale hotel lobby. And the conference badge? Easy enough to acquire or fake. My analytical mind, the one that meticulously sifted through financial reports and market data, now turned its merciless scrutiny on my own life. I pulled up our joint credit card statements, scrolling through them with a sickening dread. There it was. Not just flights to Dallas, but a series of charges from a high-end resort in Cancun. Dated exactly 2 weeks ago. A full week of charges, resort fees, spa treatments, dinners at their gourmet restaurants, even a charge from a gift shop. All during the exact period she had told me she was at a wellness retreat with her sister in Austin, the same trip where she supposedly bought the bikini. The lies were layering, building on top of each other, a horrifying edifice of deceit. I pulled up satellite maps of Cancun, zoomed in on the resort in the brochure. I found the exact pool, the specific angle from the photo. It was undeniable. I looked at her social media again. Those vague Instagram stories from what looked like a hotel lobby, generic enough to be anywhere. The conference badge, easily faked or a prop. It hit me with the force of a physical blow. She hadn't even tried that hard to cover her tracks. Or she was simply so arrogant, so sure of my trust that she didn't think she needed to. I didn't want to be right. God, how I didn't want to be right. I desperately wanted her to say something, anything that would prove me wrong, that would dismantle this terrifying new reality. But she never did. The phone call ended with her usual, "Love you, bye," and a peck into the receiver. A final casual jab of the knife. My hands, still gripping the brochure, crushed the paper slightly. The hope I'd clung to, that fragile, desperate wish that this was all a mistake, evaporated like morning mist. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a I wouldn't be there when she walked through the door, her bright "I'm home" echoing in the entryway. But I knew the confrontation would be silent, stark, and unmistakable. It would be the end. The hours that followed my discovery and the final confirmation from the credit card statements were a blur of numbness, punctuated by excruciating surges of clarity. My body moved on autopilot, but my mind was a battlefield. Rage wrestled with a profound sense of emptiness, fear of the unknown, clashing with a surprising, nascent flicker of hope for a future free from this suffocating lie. The drive home from my impromptu investigation that Saturday afternoon was agonizing. Each mile felt like a decade, a slow journey towards an inevitable reckoning. The familiar streets of Charlotte, the tree-lined avenues leading back to our quiet cul-de-sac, seemed to mock me with their unchanging normalcy. Inside, I felt like a different man, stripped bare of illusions. When I finally pulled into our driveway, the house stood there, a monument to a life I now knew was built on sand. I stepped inside, and the silence screamed her betrayal. My approach to this confrontation had to be different. My first instinct, raw and primal, was to wait for her, to scream, to shatter every illusion, every piece of their life together. But the thought of a dramatic, tear-soaked argument, of her denials and my accusations, felt cheap, undignified. She didn't deserve my raw, messy pain. She didn't deserve a stage. I needed clarity, not chaos. I needed to reclaim my power, not give it away in a fit of despair. My financial analyst's brain, even in this shattered state, sought efficiency, a precise and undeniable statement. I started with her belongings. Her suitcase, still partially unpacked from the Dallas trip she hadn't taken, lay on the floor of our bedroom. I opened it and began to pack. Her favorite cashmere sweater, a gift from me from our first Christmas together. The delicate silk scarf she loved to wear on date nights. Her running shoes, worn from the morning jogs we used to share. Each item I folded and placed inside felt like a small, precise act of excision, cutting away the layers of our shared life. As I packed, memories surfaced, sharp and painful. Her laughter, her touch, the way she'd look at me across a crowded room. Each one was now tainted by the knowledge of her deception. I found a small framed photo of us on our honeymoon, smiling on a beach. I didn't pack it. I simply left it face down on the dresser. This wasn't about punishment or revenge in a petty sense. It was about declaring the end. It was about dignity. When I finished, the suitcase stood by the front door, a silent sentinel awaiting her return. Next to it, I placed her small overnight bag, a yoga mat, and her travel coffee mug, the one she'd taken with her on every business trip. And then, the pièce de résistance, the undeniable, irrefutable evidence. I went to the kitchen island, where I'd sat just hours before, innocent and oblivious. I took the printed page from the travel brochure, the one with Ashley, smiling by the turquoise pool, the man's arm around her, the red Sharpie circle, stark against the glossy paper. I placed it carefully on the kitchen table, right next to her travel coffee mug. The symbolism was deliberate. It would be the first thing she saw, a greeting card to her shattered reality. No words were needed. The picture, the red circle, The packed bags, they would speak volumes. I walked through the house one last time. The living room, where we'd spent countless evenings, now felt hollow. The kitchen, once the heart of our home, now felt like a morgue. I touched the back of her chair at the dining table, a ghost of her presence. The silence was deafening, filled only by the frantic beating of my own heart. There was no grand gesture to be made, no final dramatic monologue. The confrontation was already set in motion. It was a silent, devastating indictment. I didn't need her to admit it. I knew. I knew about Cancun, about the man, about the web of lies. Her confession wouldn't change the facts, wouldn't erase the image burned into my mind. It would only give her the opportunity to weave more deceit, to manipulate, to try and soften the blow with false remorse. I wanted none of it. My dignity demanded a clean break, a clear boundary. By leaving, I was choosing myself. I was choosing to walk away from a lie and towards an unknown but honest future. The power in that controlled response, in denying her the emotional explosion she might have expected, felt like the only way I could survive this with my sense of self intact. I turned, grabbed my own already packed bag, and walked out the front door. The lock clicked shut behind me with a quiet finality. I started my car and drove away from the house, from the life I thought I had. The road ahead was uncertain, but the rear-view mirror showed only the end of a profound deception. I left, but I made sure she'd know this was the end. Being alone hurt. It was a hollow, aching kind of pain that settled deep in my chest, a constant reminder of the void Ashley had left behind. But staying with a lie would have hurt more. It would have been a slow, corrosive poison, eating away at my soul until there was nothing left but a shell of the man I used to be. The immediate days after I drove away from our house were a testament to that truth. I drove without a destination for what felt like hours, eventually pulling over at a quiet overlook outside the city. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the landscape, but I saw none of its beauty. My mind was a chaotic storm of anger, grief, and a strange, unsettling calm. I ended up at a friend's spare apartment, a place offered without question, just a quiet nod of understanding when I explained, vaguely, that things had fallen apart. The silence of that empty apartment was a stark contrast to the noise of my own thoughts. For the first time in years, there was no familiar presence next to me, no shared routine, just me and the crushing weight of a broken life. Then came the calls, and the texts, and the voicemails. Ashley. Her first messages were confused, then angry. "Matt, where are you? What is this? Why did you pack my bags?" Her voice, once a source of comfort, now grated on my nerves. Then came the shift. "Matt, please. We can talk about this. There's a misunderstanding. You're overreacting." I could almost see the scene in my mind. Her walking through the quiet house, her travel coffee mug still warm from her trip to Dallas. The trip that never happened. Then the sight of her packed luggage by the door. I couldn't. Every word she uttered, every attempt to contact me, only reinforced the depth of her deception and my decision to leave. There was nothing left to say. My dignity demanded silence. It demanded that she face the consequences of her actions, alone, as I was now facing mine. Life after betrayal is a strange, non-linear journey. The immediate struggle was immense. The loneliness was a physical ache, a constant reminder of the intimacy that was gone. Grief came in waves, not just for the marriage, but for the future I had so carefully envisioned, for the trust I had so freely given. Some days the anger would consume me, a hot, burning resentment at the unfairness of it all. Other days I was just profoundly, utterly sad. The practicalities were daunting too, navigating the separation, the eventual legal steps of a divorce. It felt like tearing a limb from my own body, a painful, necessary amputation. But slowly, painfully, I began to rebuild. I reconnected with old friends, people who knew the man I was before Ashley, before the betrayal. I rediscovered hobbies I'd let fall by the wayside, hiking the trails outside Charlotte with renewed purpose, losing myself in complex financial puzzles at work, but this time for my own satisfaction, not just for shared success. The biggest lesson, the most profound realization, was that I had to learn to trust myself first. I had dismissed my gut feelings, rationalized away the red flags, simply because I wanted to believe the woman I loved. Now, I had to learn to listen to that quiet voice inside, to honor my intuition, to rebuild a foundation of self-worth that wasn't dependent on another person's fidelity. It was a long, arduous process, full of setbacks and moments of doubt. But with each step, I felt a little stronger, a little more whole. The pain of loneliness was still present, but it was increasingly overshadowed by the quiet peace of authenticity, the knowledge that I was living a life free from deceit. How do you heal from a lie? It's a question that echoes through the experiences of so many people who have faced betrayal. There's no single answer, no magic cure. For me, it was a journey of acceptance, accepting that the past couldn't be changed, that the woman I married wasn't who I thought she was, and that the pain was a natural part of processing such a profound loss. It was about choosing resilience over bitterness, choosing to look forward instead of dwelling on what was stolen. Forgiveness, I found, wasn't about excusing her actions, but about releasing myself from the burden of anger, about letting go of the need for her to acknowledge the depth of her wrong. It was a painful kind of freedom, but freedom nonetheless. The scars will always be there, subtle reminders of a wound that once gaped open, but they no longer dictate my present or my future. I don't know what's next. The road ahead is still uncertain, filled with possibilities I can barely imagine. But for the first time, truly, for the first time, I'm ready to find out.
This story raises many questions. Have you had a similar experience? How would you have acted in Matt's place? Share your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to the channel to not miss new, candid, mind-changing stories.